I didn't make any money for a long time. I just knew that that was going to be my life. And I started looking into all different business models, drop shipping, trading. I even, sold a few products online. I started a clothing brand. I did some print on demand, like Etsy, dropshipping, and stuff like that. Which I made some small money, and it's not an impactful business model. It was still enough for me to see that it's possible. I do believe that that's the way God works, and not everything is here to last forever. But even if you achieve some stuff, it's here to teach you and show you that you can achieve bigger things in the future. And leading up to last year of school, I was heading into my third and final year of high school, and in Sweden you start school in middle of August, and during summer you always feel like summer's gonna last forever, and then you get to late July, beginning of August, and you realize that it's coming to an end. And I had a feeling, just like this overwhelming feeling that I never had before in the beginning of August last year, that I had to make a change. I knew that I was not going to do the last year of school. I just hated school. I was not aligned with the people that were around me. And some people can push through that. Like, some people are fine with it. Yeah, I'll do the last year of school, or I'll push through these last 3 months of my job, or whatever it is. I just can't do that. When I had enough, I'm making a change that day. And it led me to, I felt like I need to make some money in the first 2-3 weeks of school. I have to find a reasonable way for me to drop out, because otherwise my parents are going to ask why I'm not in school. So I hired my first mentor. Shortly after I discovered the agency model of online business, I truly believe that it's one thing to make money online, but it's another thing to make money with something that's impactful and something that you're proud to say, and you can stick your chest out and say that this is what I do for a living. That's a different feeling. Even if you do drop shipping or trading, you're not providing any value to the world or to the marketplace. You can make millions of dollars selling glowing teddy bears on the internet, but when somebody asks you what do you do for a living, that's not what you want to tell them. So I found the agency models. That was like the first thing that hit home. It was like, okay, this is something that I can see myself doing full time. And I hired my first mentor in the beginning of August last year, so 13 months ago. And that was a big thing for me. Not only the business knowledge, but also feeling like I was a part of something big. That really takes some of the imposter syndrome away when you start to build that network and you have close to you that you can talk to on a weekly basis. You don't feel like you're alone in a world full of people that want to pull you to the ground and say that you're arrogant if you try to achieve big goals or you have big dreams. You actually have some people on the other side that can. Month in base salary plus commission for you to be worth it for them to work for that business. And most businesses need between 5 and 6 reps to take care of all the inbound calls, and that's going to cost them between $30,000 and $50,000 a month. And still, only 35. What's good, people, and welcome to a bit of a different video than the ones I made in the past. And my entire story and my life journey leading up to this point, because the past year has been insane. It's currently the 22nd of September, 2025. I'm sitting in a 4-story villa in Stockholm, Sweden, that I decided to rent for the week. The city that I grew up in and that has shaped me as a person. And I probably speak for a lot of people when I say that if you try to do anything exceptional, if you're from Sweden, or it might be the same for a lot of countries, but I can only speak for Sweden successful stuff. You're often front of one and looked at as an outcast if you try to do exceptional things. And if you have big dreams and big goals, you're looked at as an arrogant person and you should stay grounded. The same thing that everyone else is doing. And I always knew that I was going to do some exceptional stuff in my life. I always knew that I was going to not only do something outside of the box, but as and quote unquote successful. And I was always the kid that said, you don't need to study to become successful. You don't need to go to school to make a lot of money. Ever since I was 13, 14 years old, I realized that there was other ways to make money. That was like my identity. That was my say. I've been saying it to countless people in my family, and friends around me, any person that ever doubted like that way of living life and a career for yourself. I was always like sticking up for whatever you did. I always hated school. I never had any fun kids. I was always like a smart kid, but I just hated school. I hated being thrown around and all being like the sole decision in my life. And I know that a lot of other people feel that way as well. I always ended up working 9 to 5. I've been fortunate enough to work 9 to 5 in my life. Ever since I started to see that it was possible to make money online, I went all in on trying to educate myself and learn about it. I was always an athlete. I've been competing in my sport at a very high level since I was 8 years old. I started when I was 8 years old. And I think that's where I learned that I was good size that I could pretty much achieve anything in my life. And about 4 years ago, I started to, I love the athlete side of things in the sport that I did, but really what I had a big passion for was the business side of things and making money online. That's been my passion since I was, as I said, 15 years old. Even though I didn't make any money for a long time, I really knew that I was going to do my life. And I started looking into all different business models, drop shipping, trading, solar food products online. I started a clothing brand. I did some print on demand, like Etsy, drop shipping, stuff like that. Which I made some small money in it's not a new mindful business model, it was still enough for me to see that it's possible. I do believe that that's the way God works. And not everything is here to be forever, but even if you achieve some stuff, it's here to teach you that maybe you can achieve what you're going to do. And leading up to last year of school, I was heading into my 3rd and final year of high school. And in school, you start school in like middle of August. And you always feel like summer's gonna last forever. And then you get to like late July, beginning of August, and you realize there's something to an end. And I had a feeling, just like this overwhelming feeling that I never had before. I felt like my person. And I can only speak for a lot of people when I say that if you try to do anything successful, if you're from Sweden, or it might be the same for a lot of countries, but I can only speak for Sweden since that's all about. You're often frowned upon and looked at as an outcast if you try to do exceptional things. And I feel like this is the same thing.
and when that was unsustainable, they eventually collapsed, wiping out most of their value. In fact, if you were in tech stocks at the time, you would have lost, on average, 78%, and it would have taken nearly 2 decades to recover. Now, even though 1999 does seem eerily similar to what we're seeing today, believe it or not, back then, the NASDAQ's price-to-earnings ratio was as high as 75, compared to today's of just 35. The largest tech stock in 2001 became Cisco, which peaked at a value of 472 times earnings, compared to NVIDIA's 57 times earnings. And even though today's numbers certainly feel like a bubble, compared to back then, it's really not as bad. However, even though NVIDIA isn't quite as stretched as Cisco was back in 2001, as it turns out, investors are now beginning to throw money back into companies that still don't make a profit. Case in point, this MIT study which found that 95% of companies saw no measurable ROI with AI. All of this means that, just like the early 2000s, we're starting to see a divergence between investment and productivity return, where investors believe that free money is coming back, and it's better to get in now than get left behind and have to pay more in the future, which is why a lot of investors are also comparing it to the Japanese everything bubble. This occurred throughout the late 1980s, when the Japanese stock market more than tripled in just a few years.
Sorry, I'm late.
It's all good. You're taking mornings off. The teams are working so fast. How do we have your service management?
We slept at the...
In fact, so much money was flowing into the stock markets that their short-pay ratio reached around 80, which is nearly double the dot-com collapse. The stock market dropped about 80%. People hoarded onto their cash for fear of spending any money, and it took the entire country nearly 40 years just to recover. Now, even though our market is nowhere near as dramatic as Japan, the United States is mainly just isolated to the tech sector. The same investor psychology is still swirling around today. Like many investors believe, a new economic era has arrived. There's overconfidence throughout AI. Money printing is rampant. Speculation is back. So what does this mean for you? How should you prepare? And is this actually something to worry about? Well, the way I see it, no matter what's happening throughout the economy, it's always a good idea to diversify. Not just throughout stocks, but also in what you own overall. For instance, BlackRock has argued that a small allocation to Bitcoin might provide a slight hedge to global instability. That's why I like using our sponsor, the Gemini credit card, because they give you Bitcoin back every time you purchase. Or basically, while everyone else is out speculating, you're there quietly building up a separate asset class every time you spend some money. Like with this, all you gotta do is swipe your card normally, and you can earn up to 4% back on transportation, 3% back on dining, 2% on groceries, and 1% on everything else, with no annual fee. Plus, Bitcoin rewards and help with the Gemini credit card for a year have appreciated 277% on average. This makes it really easy to gain a little exposure to Bitcoin without having to try to time the market or buy it yourself. Plus, it comes in 5 cool stainless steel colors. You can get black, silver, rose gold, Bitcoin orange, and a brand new XRP. Or I guess if Bitcoin is not your thing, you can also select from more than 50 other cryptocurrencies that you can switch to at any time. Feel free to check out the description for more information on rates and fees and see if you're eligible with no impact to your credit. So if you'd like to earn Bitcoin or select from dozens of others, feel free to use the link down below in the description or go to gemini.com/ramp to get started. And as a special bonus, you can get $800 worth of free Bitcoin when you spend $3,000 in the first 90 days. Again, that link is down below. Enjoy, thank you so much, and now let's get back to the video. Alright, so before we go into what I'm doing and how to prepare going forward, no matter what happens, we gotta answer the question, are we in a stock market bubble? The honest answer is, by nearly every measurable aspect, there's just no way to sugarcoat it, the market is trading at historically high valuations. Like 60% of venture capital is now going into AI, compared to 40% that went into internet companies in the 90s. Our fear versus greed index is back at green, and price-to-sales ratios are back to a number that we haven't seen in decades. But could that just be the result of endless money printing, especially since the dollar has seen its worst year since 1973? Well, even though some theories would say that asset prices aren't up, the dollar's just going down, when you look at the data, it turns out that it's not exactly true. Like, when you look at the dollar's value over the last 50 years, you're noticing three crazy swings. For instance, it depreciated from 2002 to 12, and it appreciated throughout the 2010s, all during a time where the markets went up and down and back up again, effectively showing no correlation between the two whatsoever. Fisher Investments also analyzed this phenomenon going all the way back to the 1970s, when the dollar was taken off the gold standard. And as it turned out, the correlation between the trade-weighted dollar index and the S&P 500 returns is only about 0.15, which is essentially zero. On top of that, they also discovered that global stocks were up 76% of the time, whether the dollar was rising or falling. Of course, that's not to say that the dollar can't have some impact in the stock market short term, but long term, it's shown that the dollar's really has a zero correlation with the S&P 500's performance long term. But what about inflation? Surely that has to have some effect, right? Well, to a certain degree, yes, inflation can be factored into the price that you pay for a stock. But over the long run, when you really dig into the data, there's no correlation between the amount of money getting printed into the economy and the higher the stock market goes. Like as Ben Carlson from A Wealth of Common Sense blog points out, this could be because the stock market is supposed to be forward-looking and the inflation involves backward-looking data. But even if you did some sort of look ahead, there's nothing there. This all suggests that the stock market is genuinely expanding outside the amount of money that gets printed into the economy. So does this confirm then that we're not in a stock market bubble? Well, the truth is, if we are in a bubble, we usually can't tell until after the fact. And there's nothing that says we can't trade like this for much longer. Like, to help put this into perspective, if we trade at the same level as Japan did at the very peak, our S&P 500 would currently be at over 11,000. And right now, we're almost half of that. At the same time that there's $7.7 trillion on the sidelines that still hasn't entered the market. Not to mention, AI is backed by some genuine, very profitable companies. Like Google and Microsoft are not going to be going bankrupt if their AI investments don't pan out as well as they expected. Unlike a lot of the .com companies that vanished overnight. We also can't deny the transformative nature of AI, which is very real, and we could very well grow into these valuations at the same time too. Amazon is a great example of this. They survived the .com bust and are now one of the largest companies in existence. Not to mention, just the fact that we're talking about it being in a bubble means that maybe that's already somewhat priced in, and or not in a bubble. I just think that now is a time to at least be cautious. Make sure you have a steady income. Make sure you invest consistently. Make sure you're properly diversified. And even if the market does go down, use it as an opportunity to buy back in, even cheap. That's why, when it comes to what I'm doing, I am a huge fan of the phrase, the market could remain irrational longer than you could remain solvent. This means that as smart as you think you might be to predict the future and call a stock market bubble, the market has shown that it's consistently defied the odds, and betting against it so far has been very unprofitable. Like, take a look at Isaac Newton. During the South Sea bubble of 1720, he initially invested early, made a huge profit, and cashed out, thinking the market run was unsustainable. But then he watched as prices kept soaring, and his friends got even richer. So despite his brilliance, he jumped back in near the peak. At first, he looked like a genius, but then everything came crashing down, and he lost huge. Don't let this be you. All of that is to say that I'm taking the approach of consistently dollar cost averaging into the markets on a regular basis, regardless of where it trades. But I am doing my best to diversify across as many different sectors as possible. For instance, even though I'm investing in the United States, I'm also investing in international stocks, emerging markets, and a Bitcoin ETF, while also keeping some cash on the sidelines in tax-free muni bonds that earn anywhere from 3.5% to 5% a year. That way, I'm still invested, I still buy in. But if the market falls, I have some dry powder to buy in even cheaper. It's kind of like insurance, where, yes, I do miss out on some profits from not having all of my money invested, but if things fall, it's definitely going to pay for itself. Separate from that, in terms of the stock market bubble, from everything that I could find, the data points to the fact that the stock market is trading at a very high level that might be difficult to sustain. But that doesn't mean it can't continue going higher for a very, very, very long time. And statistically, betting against it has lost more money than people have made. Or then again, maybe I'm totally wrong. I'm just a random guy making YouTube videos in a half-converted garage. So I would love to hear what you think of this down below in the comment section. I will do my best to read and reply to as many of you as I can. Also, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you so much. Until next time.
I have 17 different income streams right now. Some are weird, some are obvious, and a couple might surprise you. If you've ever wondered how entrepreneurs really make money, I'll show you across all 17 different income streams I've built. Because at the end of the day, that's what building multiple income streams is all about, a chance to play at the highest level of the game. There's 5 levels. Level 1, time for money. This is where you're trading your hours directly for dollars. The problem, you stop working, the money stops too. AdSense from YouTube. So here's how it works. You do not need 1 million followers. You don't need to go viral. You just need consistent watchable content. When you hit 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours on YouTube, they unlock something called the YouTube Partner Program. That means YouTube starts showing ads on your videos and gives you a cut of that money. But how much money are we actually talking? A basic rule of thumb is you earn about $3 to $20 per 1,000 views, depending on your niche. Views like mine, finance, business, real estate, higher CPM, which is a fancy way of saying cost per 1,000 views. Gaming and pranks, lower. So if one video gets 100,000 views, that could be anywhere from $500 to $2,000 in income just from one piece of content. I thought I'd share my real numbers with you. So in 2024, I made $360,000 on YouTube. Here's why I like AdSense though. It scales while you sleep. So once you post a video, it can keep earning for months or even years. And honestly, YouTube is one of the few platforms that actually rewards long-form content. This one, you can see here, we filmed in 2024 and it's still earning. How do you start? First, you pick your niche. Second, create videos that solve problems or entertain. Third, don't overthink the gear, your iPhone, natural light, fine at first. 4, post at least once a week, treat it like a business. Is it easy? No. Is it fast? Definitely not. But AdSense is one of those streams that feels great when it kicks in, because now your ideas make you money. All right, the next one I want to talk about is ads and sponsorships. This is when brands pay you to talk about them. And it's not just for big influencers. You don't need millions of followers, you need some trust and an audience that cares about what you say. Here's the basic idea. You got a YouTube channel, a podcast, a newsletter, or even just a loyal Instagram following. A brand wants access to those people, they'll pay you to get in front of them. It is high margin and you can scale it up fast. For example, you do a YouTube video and mention a sponsor in the first 60 seconds, that's typically a flat fee. You write a newsletter and include their product as a featured link, that's another check. You post on Instagram with a product you already use, same deal. I don't actually like doing these unless it's with companies I really love. Here's a rough guide though if you want to do it. Okay, a small creator with 5 to 10K followers could earn $250 to $500 per post or newsletter. A mid-sized creator is about 1,000 to 5,000 depending on the niche. Brands actually love micro-influencers. You're having a real moment right now. How do we start? Know your audience. Who follows you? What do they care about? 2, make a meeting. It can be a one-pager in Canva like these with your reach, open rates, what topics you use as are free. Start with products you already use, tag them, review them, build proof before pitching. 4, you reach out directly. So if you're not going to use a software, DM the brand or find the marketing person on LinkedIn. Keep it short.